Let's go to Jen Psaki, who we rarely ever agree with, but she's carrying Biden's water here. Remember, she's the former press person for Biden, and this is going to be the line of attack that they're going to use, and they're not wrong. They're not wrong. Jen Psaki is not wrong when she says that this is going to be a cluster, you know what. All right, let's watch her here on MSNBC laying it out.
Can I just add, Bill raised the open convention alternative option, which I think is like what would happen in the West Wing episode if there was a West Wing episode about this. And
we could do a debate.
Everybody would just convene, the president would endorse someone, and everybody would just line up behind them, and the public would be happy. That is not how it would work. And I think this is the piece that's completely underestimated. Joe Biden had a terrible debate night, terrible performance. I worked for him for a year and a half, as you know, and I don't think anybody should tell you otherwise. But an open convention means you have an amazing bench of potential 2028 candidates. A lot of the people we saw out on Thursday night. You have the vice president of the United States. You have them competing against each other. You have a group of inside Democrats, not the American public, by the way, who nominated Joe Biden, who decided to nominate Joe Biden, selecting who the nominee is. And then after that process, somebody is spit out of that process. And a lot of people are angry. They're disappointed. Maybe they don't like who the person is. And then you have a person who is untested, even if they're great and they have enormous potential, which we have a lot of 2028 Democrats who do, who's untested with low name ID and a party that's divided and upset. That's the potential outcome of an open convention.
She's not wrong. Let me quote from an article that appeared on NBC News, in which they write, party rules make it almost impossible to replace nominees without their consent, let alone smoothly replacing them with someone else. And doing so would amount to parties' insiders overturning the results of primaries when Democrat voters overwhelmingly moved to nominate Biden. He won almost 99% of the delegates. So how do you go in and turn that over unless he's perfectly willing? And by the way, he's not. And nor is his wife, and nor is his son. They had the granddaughters out there for the weekend. And the granddaughters apparently are going to start going on with social media influencers and trying to rally the base to support Joe Biden. They've got themselves a really big mess because those that support him are going to say, well, wait a second, what's going on? In other words, I voted for Joe Biden and my delegate is supposed to vote for Joe Biden. And now you're telling me it's not going to be Joe Biden? If he's not going to go along with this, they get themselves a really big problem. Now, it's entirely possible that they're holding out for everything they can, right? If you're Jill, if you're Hunter, you're going to hold out for the whole thing. So you want money, you want power, you want the promise of more things to come, and you want to make sure that Hunter gets off somehow. And by the way, did we not say all along that they might hold that over his head? Kind of makes you wonder if the whole thing was sort of a setup. How did they not know that he was going to underperform so badly in this debate? How could they have not known? Anybody who talked to the guy, anybody who filmed the guy, anybody who ran the clips as we did right here on this show knew that he was in a really bad spot. So why would you even allow him to do the debate in the first place, except that he wanted to? Apparently he wanted to, and he felt like he had to because his polls were so bad, which is why sometimes, as they say, you must save people from themselves. In this case, Joe Biden needs to be saved from himself, and thus the country needs to be saved from Joe Biden. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're trying. I know Bill O'Reilly, my former colleague over at Fox, is saying it is happening. They're just trying to figure out the timing. Sure. But you know what? If this guy doesn't go along with it, what are you going to do? Really and truly, what are you going to do? Are you going to have Kamala step in as vice president? Or are we going to have to send him off to pasture for real? This is going to get ugly. And so Jen Psaki is absolutely positively right. There's no easy way to do this. And it's going to get ugly from a litigation standpoint as well. You have so many states that are going to say, well, it's not really going to work. Look, they tried some aspects of this. If you go back in time, there was an effort at one point to get rid of Hillary Clinton, because they thought that she couldn't win. By the way, they were right. I'm just going to tell you this, guys. You know what? You got to make up your minds beforehand. You don't wait until the 11th hour and then try and circumvent the actual vote of the people. Hey. They don't give you that reputation there in the Democrat Party for nothing, I guess. Think about that. They're going to actually strip away the rights of the people that voted for Joe Biden and put somebody else in that is party approved? That's not going to fly. So you really will really will have a challenge. I'm just looking back in time. It was reported that Donna Brazile, who was then the interim DNC chair, considered invoking various measures to change who was going to be the nominee. And she actually wrote about it in her memoir. She looked at perhaps getting rid of Hillary Clinton because of her health, and that she thought she was lacking the spirit of fight. I'll quote from the memoir. Perhaps changing the candidate was a chance to win this thing, to change the playing field in a way that would send Donald Trump scrambling and unable to catch up, she writes, adding that aides to the other would-be candidates contacted her, including then Vice President Biden's chief of staff. But after less than 24 hours of consideration, Donna Brazile realized that the idea was untenable without Clinton's cooperation and likely would only divide the party further. She wrote, "I could not make good on my threat to replace her." So there they are. They got a bit of a quagmire, shall we say. They know they can't win with Joe Biden. They know he's suffering. They know most likely this is dementia, ladies and gentlemen. They've got a wife that's hanging on in a Lady Macbeth style for dear life. They got a son that's hanging on because he's just, well, a corrupt capitalist. And consequently, they can't get rid of him. And they know if the election were held today, especially after that debate, Donald Trump will win. I'm actually of the belief that Donald Trump doesn't need to do another debate at this point. It's kind of a waste of his time. They're ditching him. They're ditching him. But they have to make sure that they don't create an entire crisis for the country and for the Democrat Party in the process.